Hey, coffee lovers, welcome to our live stream. Mark here with Nick.
Good to be here, Mark.
Thanks for joining us. Just wanted a couple things to get started. If you have questions, get into those comments. We've already got a couple from Paul and Didon.
That's right.
So we'll try and get to those throughout the stream if we can. You know, be sure and subscribe to the channel, right?
That's right.
We're doing these live streams every Friday at 3. What's coming up next week?
Yeah, we've got an in-depth look at water filtration and water quality next week. Definitely
Very important topic. You've got to
right.
protect your machine and make your coffee taste good, and it's often misunderstood. So we'll take a look at that. You know, again, every Friday at 3 we're doing these. Today, Nick, we're going to take a look at 3 dual boiler machines.
That's right, 3 dual boiler machines from Profitec. So, Didon, I see your question down there. Do you wait for the move or do you spring for the ride? Well, maybe after today's stream, you'll have a better perspective on answering that exact question.
And we do have a full review coming out on the ride.
That's right. I would say maybe perhaps this weekend.
Perhaps this weekend. We just finished up some shooting on that. Within this stream, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the testing that we do, and you're going to see a lot of that in the video for this, and that's something we're doing now with all our machines. I'll get a little more into that. But Nick, let's talk about the machines we have here. So we have the Move.
Of course, the Profitec Move that we've got here. It's on my left. Dual boiler, the only non-E61 of the bunch that we've got here.
Ring group up here.
Ring group, that's right.
Okay.
In the center, the star of our upcoming review, the Profitec Ride. So this is a vibratory pump dual boiler espresso machine. It is the modernized version of the Profitec Pro 600. And then the Profitec Drive, which you may all be familiar with as well. So this is the update to the Profitec Pro 700, a high-capacity, plumbable rotary dual boiler espresso machine.
So as you said, we've gone from numbers to
verbs. That's right.
Verb
yeah,
line.
I'm calling it the verb
really.
series, the verb line, right?
The
exactly.
verb line. But so 2 vibration pumps, rotary pump.
Yes.
These 2, our first 2, not plumbable machines. The drive there is plumbable. Well, I think, you know, one thing that's really changed since the 300, 600, 700, if you're familiar with those, is some of the capabilities, of course. And programming. You know, I have forever been working with PID machines that have 2 little buttons, and you can set like a steam temperature, brew temperature, maybe 1 or 2 other things. A lot more going on here.
Absolutely.
Every single one of these machines has time of day programming, right? So you can program a turn on time, a turn off time by day of week, 2 of those per day, which is really nice because, you know, some of these machines, they take a while to get fully heated up and do that. But they also, on top of that, they all have a fast heating function.
Yes, so that was something that was developed for both ECM and Profitec's machines. Fast heat up overheats that brew water and then has you perform a flush, essentially, to preheat everything from the group to the Portafilter as well.
So depending on if you're just going to be brewing espresso and not steaming, or if you want the machine fully, I mean, all of these machines are ready to go fully to make a milk drink, and well, I think the longest one's about 14 minutes, but somewhere in that 11 to 14 minute range. But if you're using a timer to have it turned on anyways, you know, it's going to be there ready waiting for you. When you need it in an emergency, you can get it up going quickly. Another thing I want to point out is, so like when we look at the Move, this one is like has programmable buttons. You can run it fully manually to perform an extraction.
That's right.
But you can also program times for active, passive, pre-infusion. We'll talk more about that. And for the duration of the extraction. And that's going to be a time-based thing on this machine.
Exactly. And I mean, you know, this being the only non-E61, that is where you do have a few trades. We'll talk a little bit about why you might want to consider something like the Ride over the Move, just when it comes to what that E61 is unlocking. But you're absolutely right, Mark. So the Move being the only non-E61 machine, we do have these buttons, like you said, that can be programmed for your shots. And one of the nice things that Profitec added is actually the ability to use the buttons when navigating the interface, which for some people it may be, you know, preferable as opposed to simply just using the buttons that come with the standard PID.
And another thing I really like is that the menus here, the displays, they use actual words in there instead of, you know, a lot of times it was like T1, T2, or, you know, kind of cryptic things. So these are much easier to work with and really take advantage of a lot of those extra features. I see Didon's got Advantage Move.
Advantage Move.
You like the programmable stuff.
Good to see you too, James, by the way.
Yes. I do want to talk real quick, and we're going to pull some shots. You're going to froth some milk for us, right? Which I got to get out of the fridge.
Oh, yeah, it's right there, though. We're good.
But I do want to talk a little bit about our testing. I alluded to that a little bit. Now, I've developed this thing. So I want to show you a couple things. So, Will, if you can get in here for me. First of all, so if you are at all familiar with testing machines, there's a thing called a SCASE device.
That's right.
And this is the deal that fits into a SCASE device. This in here, so this is supposed to simulate a coffee puck, and this is the temperature probe right here. So that's what's going to register the temperature. Then you've also really got to be careful in how you adjust the outflow here. So we're actually really simulating an extraction.
Right, the resistance that you'd be getting from that coffee.
Because there's a very specific thing through the SCA, like how much water should be going through when you're measuring temperatures and that kind of thing. So I thought, why don't we just measure real extractions, right? So what I made, this is a K-type thermal probe that's in here. It's going to be maybe kind of hard to see, but we actually perform real extractions and measure the temperature within the coffee puck. So we're getting as real world as you can possibly get. And we'll take a look, and let me just show you real quick. So here's kind of what I come out with, and Will, if you can pull it up, this graphic here. So this is for the ride, which we're gonna see.
Oh, see, Will's is in color, so it's a lot prettier than your paper.
A lot prettier. But so what we're doing, so I set the PID to 200 degrees, and then perform an extraction every 3 minutes and do 10 of those. So I'm whipping them out, and you will see that in that review of the ride when it comes out. But again, that's measuring an actual real temperature in the puck. And when you take a look, I want you to take a look at this, because I learned something really interesting while doing this. Now you see those first 4 extractions, they're all right where we want to be.
About 200.
That's beautiful performance. As I was rapid firing those extractions, I'm grinding a lot of coffee quick, the grounds are heating up a little bit, extractions tend to go faster. This is a little piece of pro knowledge here, that if you're rapid firing, you often have to fine up your grind a little bit to slow things down if that's what you want to do. But when water moves faster through the puck, you can see the temperatures go up just a little bit because water's coming out of that boiler a little faster. And also you're heating up the group a little bit more.
That's right.
That's not a huge temperature change there. And then, I don't know if you saw in the last one there, but in the 10th extraction, I saw that happening. So I'm like, I'm going to fine up my grind just a little bit. And we're right back down to
within a degree of 200, exactly.
Right. So that's cool. We also do, I'll also say we do frothing tests on all the machines, and I think we have, so I've got mine here, and Will's got the nice color version. This is for the ride again. And you can see, so what we do, this is an SCA spec test. So we do 5 ounces of milk starting out of the fridge, take it to 140, and this is how long it takes. So about 23 seconds on the ride here. And then I also measure how much water is added when we're doing those tests. And here we got about 10% right across the board. And that's pretty good. I mean, a lot of machines, if a machine's a little wetter, you might get 15% water added in tests like that. So anything at 11% or under, that's a really, really nice result. And we'll talk more about all the other machines are like that. I will tell you right off the bat that the Drive over here, it's the fastest steamer of them all.
Makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense because it has, although it doesn't have the same pressure in the boiler, it's a much larger boiler.
Yes, that's twice the size of the boiler in the ride.
Yeah, so it's not always about temperature and pressure. Sometimes a larger boiler is going to get you faster steaming. Sometimes you don't want faster steaming. And all these machines, you can turn down the temperature if you want more time to work with your milk. So if you're new to frothing milk, that can be really advantageous.
And I think that was one of the big improvements when we switched from the Profitec Pro 300 to the Move, was moving from a pressure stack controlled steam boiler to actually using a true dual PID. So you have that precision steam temperature control.
Yeah.
So advantage Move, perhaps?
Advantage, yeah. Well, they all have that. You can
They
turn
all have that.
as opposed to the 300. Yeah, we want PID in the steam boiler there.
Yes.
But maybe we just pull a shot on each machine and kind of run down line, and as we're doing that, we can talk about some of the functionality that we have there.
Yep.
So now what I did here, we've got 2 grinders. So we have the Profitec Twist and then the single dosing version.
Twist SD, that's right.
The Twist SD. These match up real nice with the aesthetic of these machines. So if you're looking for a grinder, for all my testing on the ride here, I did use the Twist SD. Because I had to, really rapid fire shots out there, and I want very specific weights, and it does a great job at that. And a really nice
single
grinder.
dosing always helps for that. Yeah.
Single dosing always does. Now what I did with this grinder is we kind of dialed it in between these 2 machines. And if you've watched any of my videos about dialing in, grind size isn't set and forget. So it's not like you get a grinder and set it to, like 1 or a 1.5 and then you're done. depending on the machine you're using, it may change a little bit. The filter baskets, your shower screens, your all kinds of stuff, right?
And I'm glad you said filter baskets because that is something I do want to point out. So the Move introduced this, and it has been echoed with the Ride as well. Profitec has created a new modular portafilter that they're starting to include on more of these machines. Now, if you want to get close, we'll see. I'll help you out there. The Ride that we have here on set, we've tricked out with some wood accents, so from Wiedemann. So this is not the stock handle that would come with this. This is a nice olive wood one. You have a Profitec P right here. So kind of like ECM's portafilters now, where you've got that. Well, I'd say forget it. I can't really see that in the other camera there. But the point is, you're getting now 3 baskets with each of these machines, a 7, a 14, and a 21 gram. So Mark,
on these two,
on this machine and on the Move here, and you dialed in for both of them. We basically were able to pull essentially the same shot between both of these machines because it's the same portafilter and the same baskets. Now, the Ride is a little different. The Drive, sorry. Yeah, you are still getting 2 portafilters, a single and a double spout, though it does have easy to change handles. All of these come with handles that are hand loose so that you can remove them and swap them. And we will be adding actually this modular portafilter as a standalone purchase item to the website within the next week or so.
And I see you tricked out here our twist to match up.
Yeah, so that's, we've got the olive wood WDT as well. So we've got some Wiedemann represented here. Alongside some other great accessories. But yeah, Mark, I've talked too much. Let's pull some shots here.
All right. So let me pull shots. So again, we did dial these in. There may be a slight difference. So if the time's a little off, relax, okay? But I am gonna pull a bottomless shot here on the Move. Let me get this going here. So we'll
get your
yes. Oh, I do have. And that's what happens when we go live. I hit the button and instantly. Yeah, Nick wanted me to use the dosing funnel
just to cut down on mess. That is the Wiedemann dosing funnel there.
So we're using a 17-gram dose here. I am going to do a little WDT with that, so I'm pulling bottomless, so I want to have the greatest chance of success. I'm also going to use some special Bravo tools that I have over here that are some of my favorites. So I'm going to pull this out of here.
Not just your favorites, but favorites of WBC Judge Danilo Lodi as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep that dosing funnel on there while I use the WDT here, just to kind of stir and declump. And the grind really wasn't all that clumpy, but I just want to make sure everything's as perfect as it possibly can be. Oh, and you're going to pull the brush there.
I'm going to pull the brush, so while you are pulling your shot there, I'll just tidy up a little bit for you.
So I'm also going to use this. I love this little tamping stand here from Profitec. So I can sit that right in there.
Black is kind of the color, right? And they're kind of going with that with everything.
So I do have their distributor tool here. So this is this drops automatically on the coffee. It doesn't really compress it. There are some tools that will compress coffee as well. This one does not. So you spin it clockwise a couple times, counterclockwise, and then I love this little push tamper. One of my favorites. Let's push that in. Give it a push. And I am going to weigh our extraction here. My technique is to give it what I call the barista blow, if there's anything like that, just to keep things clean and wipe it off. And I do have a Varia scale here. So I'm going to put that under there. And let's see, can I borrow one of the little cups over here? Those are the Varias, right?
That is a Quinto cast cup. Sorry. Yes, it's a Quinto cast cup. We do have some Varia sip cups up there too.
All right, so I just zeroed out my scale. Now what I have done is program the 2-shot button here just to be very, very long because I'm going to control this manually. So I'm just going to push the button and wake up the machine and let it do its thing. I do have a shot clock here running on this. And we're going to time it, 17-gram dose. We're going to look for 34 out. How's it look? Very nice shot. That WDT definitely helps with that. I'm at 13 seconds, and I'm at 13, 14, 15 grams. It looks like we're going to be pretty good. So when I want this to stop, I'm just going to press the button again.
And to
I'm going to stop at around 32.
You programmed that just to run very long so that you had that manual control.
Yes. So we had 26.7 seconds. I ended up at 35. I should have hit the button just a half a second sooner. But there's our shot. We are using the Crema Wave coffee. I'm going to set this up. We get a look at it. It does produce a lot of crema. This coffee was roasted, I think, 7 to 8 days ago. So
very fresh.
Really, really fresh. You know what I don't have is a spoon, because I do want to taste this.
Let me go grab you one real quick.
Okay.
I'll sneak off camera for a moment.
But you see, and I had dialed that shot in, I don't know, maybe a half an hour ago. I tried to dial in a little bit before we do this. Let's take a look. I'm going to get the scale out of here, take a look at our puck. I don't see any obvious signs of channeling or anything in there, and the shot really did look good from underneath. So I'll knock that out. I'm going to wipe out my Portafilter and then just put it back in the machine, because that's where it should always be if it's not in use, is just loosely into the machine. I don't crank them down really hard when I'm doing this, because I don't want to sacrifice my gasket any more than I have to. Ah, the spoon man. Thanks, Nick. So I do want to give this a little taste and see how we did. Now I'm expecting, because this is pretty freshly roasted. Now this isn't known to be a super bright coffee, but because it's fresh,
It will be a little brighter, I'd say,
it will have a little acidity working, which I honestly sometimes like, so we'll see how it does.
Colby asks, do you ever use silicone grease if you replace your gasket in the group head? Is there a need? I have never used silicone grease when I've replaced a group gasket.
I have seen some of our techs maybe just wipe the back of the gasket when they put it up in there. Sometimes that can help it from really sealing up. Just make sure it's a food safe grease, which shouldn't be a problem.
And how's that shot treating you?
You can tell I'm a little shaky, because I've been dialing in earlier, so I'm on 4 or 5
Well,
here.
I was going to say, we're getting
But actually, very, very nice. Really, really nice.
I brought a few extra spoons. I have a feeling I'm going to get caffeinated a little this segment as well.
We always do when we do these somehow. I don't know. So that's that. But let me show you just real quick how the programming would work on this.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea. So let me grind up another one here. And maybe we'll do a little pre-infusion of
Here's
this.
this for you.
Thank you. You knew I was probably going to forget, right?
Yes. Mark, tell us just a little bit about pre-infusion on a machine like this one, where you don't have flow control and you don't have line pressure or anything like that.
Right. So what it's going to do is going to wet the coffee, and this is programmable by time. We'll do that. And then it's going to so it has an active phase where it actually pushes water into the coffee, and then a passive phase where it's going to soak the coffee.
Yeah.
So you're just waiting, letting it do its thing. This is what really helps those really fresh coffees. If you just let it bloom a little bit, if you've ever done a pour over and you see the coffee kind of bubble up, that's the carbon dioxide that's locked up in that very fresh roast coming out. So let me pull this out carefully.
There you go.
Again, I will WDT this. Now, I do expect with a pre-infusion that the shot is going to run maybe just a little bit faster.
A little bit faster. Yeah, because you're pre-saturating everything, and you're helping the water flow more evenly, so it is going to pull a little faster. I do love the wood accents too. Do you know those are all available for the Profitec Ride and the Drive, actually. On our site, you can select the style of wood that you want before you add it to your cart. You can also just preview them in the gallery. So these are the olive wood accents that we've got here from Wiedemann. We do have the matching lid on our Profitec grinder as well, and a couple other accessories, even things like tamp stations, the WDT as you saw. Grab me
another cup.
Yeah. Or do you want to do froth milk this time? We're doing just pure espresso again.
Let's do a pure espresso.
Okay.
We could, of course, froth milk it as a dual boiler. No problem here.
So one thing too on the Move, steaming wise, probably not as much endurance as these other machines. I know you did a video response actually about that after our video review, just with that slightly smaller steaming boiler that we've gotten here versus even the Ride, for example.
Yeah. I mean, look, it does really, really well, and it does come back really, really quick, but a little more stability on down the line here.
Yes, and we'll talk about that.
Okay. So now I'm going to program this one, and I'm going to do it. You can do this in a menu, so you can go into a menu, you can tell it the exact times that you want and all that. I'm going to do it like kind of what I used to always call the press and hold method.
Press and hold. Do it live.
So I'm going to do it on the one button here. So it's just press and hold, unless I have to wake it up. So that's telling me pre-infusion is on. Cool. So now it's doing the pre-infusion. I'm going to let that go for about maybe 5 seconds. Actually, I would probably change that down to about 4. I don't want it to drip quite yet. Now it's recording my passive phase. Now I'm going to restart it.
So you programmed your active, you programmed your passive, and now we're going straight into extraction. Like you said, a little faster, but that's what we would expect having pre-infused.
Yes.
And this is a slightly smaller dose too, at 17 grams. But that's basically pure crema.
But a really nice shot. I do want to taste it and see the taste difference here. because there's always been this question, I used to always get the question, like, do I count the pre-infusion time and the shot time? First of all, shot timing is like the most basic way of appraising a shot. Taste is really what you want to do.
Taste is what you want.
Because a lot of people would argue, well, when I put hot water on the coffee, it's starting to brew. But in my opinion, you're not removing any solids from the puck, so it's a little different. Yeah. But timing's basic. That's where you start.
I would say too, I mean, timing is basic. You do want to ultimately taste what you've extracted and see if you like it, and it's going to vary based on coffee. Yeah. Tyler, any thoughts on when additional color options for the Move will be available? Tyler, we are looking for an answer to that question ourselves. We are eagerly anticipating the other lineup of colors for the Move, so just keep your eyes on Latte Love, because when they're available, you'll definitely know, but no answers there. Seabreeze, love the Move, nice looking machine. Yes, it is very nice, and I agree with
yeah, it does have the lights working, right?
The lights on there are quite nice. I think in our review of that, we really show those off. They are very pretty.
Yeah. So what do you say? You want to pull a shot over here?
Yeah,
Nick?
I'd love to pull a shot on the Profitec Ride that we have here. So interesting thing to note about the Ride, it has, like I said, the same, or maybe I didn't say this, but the same brew boiler on this machine as on the Profitec Drive and the ECM Synchronica 2. So that's a 0.75 liter stainless steel brew boiler. So if you're thinking about these machines from a brewing performance perspective, especially when you're looking kind of at this at the middle of the road price-wise versus something like the Drive or the Synchronica 2, you are getting that same temperature stability and that same PID control. The key difference for your extraction would be obviously the difference between that vibration pump and the rotary pump. But so the nice thing is, like we were saying, same portafilter head and basket here on the Profitec Ride, so I can actually use the exact same dose that Mark programmed for the Move for my Ride here. So let's go ahead.
And of course, the marquee feature of the Ride over here, that dual heating, right?
Yes,
the dual heating. So when we steam on this machine, it can actually be adding heat to the boiler as it's steaming, even if the brew boiler was requesting some heat.
That's right. So generally speaking, the machines will alternate heating between one boiler or the other, with the priority going to the brew boiler as opposed to the steam boiler. So on the Ride here, both boilers are heating at the same time, and that means that we've found, especially compared to the old 600, the Ride typically had overall higher steam pressure over a longer period of time. And there we go.
And this really of the machines here, because it's the pressure in the boiler on the Ride is actually higher than on the Drive, but again, the Drive has a larger boiler, so effectively it can steam faster because there's more steam within the boiler, if that makes sense. But like on the Ride, I did run this for 1 full minute. My pressure started right, kind of like where we are right now, just about 2 1/4 bar, and it only went down after a minute to 1.7 bar. Now keep in mind that a lot of like heat exchange boiler machines and that, they're not even above 1.2 bar when you start steaming. So
we'll talk a little bit about the steam performance of this machine too, because there's some history there that we have with ECM Profitec. But
yes,
I'm going to go ahead and start doing both at the same time here. Great vigorous roll. This is a 2-hole steam tip for those of you who couldn't see it. I am using a Varia cup this time. You inspired me. Shot's looking good. And now I am not a latte artist, so we're going to have to make do with what we've got here.
I'll wipe the wand
for you.
Huh?
23 seconds, so just a little faster. Not too bad, though. And, brewing and steaming at the same time, really not all that scary. You just have to keep your eyes on that timer. For the most part, your steaming is always going to be done before brewing. And actually, well, we're gonna try the overhead. Just don't get the front of my forehead, and we'll be fine here. But this looks a little too much foam here, but we'll go in anyway. So, Mark, let's talk just a little bit about the history of the steaming on the Profitec Ride, and formerly the 600. So yeah, a little too much foam there, but obviously my Rosetta is, a little round around the edges, let's just say.
As I always say, it's still going to taste good.
Well, you know what? Proof is in the taste.
Yeah, so. There you go. So the history. So like when these machines first came out, This goes back even, to the 700, the Synchronica.
700 in the original Synchronica. That's
Yeah.
right.
They operated at a lower steam pressure. So we kind of worked with ECM and Profitec to get an upgrade so that we get more pressure in them, especially Todd.
Do you remember what was the benchmark too that we were comparing against? Because there was a machine in particular that we were looking at when we were talking about how
You're going to
high-
have to help me with that one. My mind's blanking.
the GS3.
Ah, that's right. Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
they improved the PID in terms of the max temp that could be reached, but also the safety valve.
Yes.
So that the boiler would actually reach that higher pressure, and that was introduced in the 700 and the Synchronica.
It was around 2016, 2017.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
in 2018, which is when the Profitec Pro 600 came out, they used the same PID in the same safety valve to allow the 600 to reach that same 2 bar of idle pressure.
Yeah, at one point we had an upgrade kit, right? We had the
We did have a
the
PID
safety
upgrade,
valve, the
yes.
PID, and so you could upgrade to that higher pressure if you wanted to.
Yes.
Just real quick, we'll take a look at a couple of questions here. Water reservoir access. So,
Top in the
let's
back.
go there. So, if we can run across. So on the move here, the top comes off the back.
Yep.
So water reservoir there.
So on the ride, and this is something that's different when you look at the ride versus the Pro 600 that it was based on, the entire cup tray lifts off now and it's in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark, you've really given me a bit of a job here.
Don't
but,
break the glass.
Same on the Profitec Drive, where in the top on the back there, you have the water reservoir as well.
Of course, if you're going to go with a drive, plumb it.
Yes.
I've said many times in the video,
yes.
plumbing a machine is a life-changing experience. To have an endless water supply, one that you can easily filter with an inline filter so that you never have scale.
Yes.
Because dual boiler machines, you really don't want to be descaling them.
Correct.
You want to use a water that's not going to cause scale in the first place, and it's going to give you great tasting coffee. It's going to remove chlorine. It's going to reduce the calcium, so no scale, great taste.
Just the quality of life over the course of years, not having to refill, I think, is a big part of that.
It really is. Let's see. Ride, vibration pump, and stainless steel boiler.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
But something cool we found out when we were going through the machine and doing the review on the vibration pump, right?
well, yeah, and you did your internal tour with
Yes.
Todd.
You'll
So
see that
tell
in
us
the video.
about that if you want, or I'll just go over to the boilers real quick.
Yeah, well, let's go through the boilers.
So Profitec Move, the brew boiler is made out of brass. It's the same brew boiler, or just boiler, from the Profitec Go. And then it does have a stainless steam boiler. Profitec Ride here. So actually, and I believe this is 0.4 brew, 0.7 steam, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds about right, yep.
0.75 brew, 1 liter steam on the Ride, both vertical stainless. And then 0.75 brew, 2 liter steam here on the Drive. Again, both vertical stainless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very nice. So that thing, we did see that it has a vibration damper on the pump here. This literally is one of the quietest vibration
pumps,
pump
yeah.
machines I've ever experienced. They've really done a lot. That's something that Profitec is always doing. I mean, you hear that.
Or you don't. Really.
You're right, or you don't. And you're almost to the noise level of a rotary pump. You
Yes.
really are. Also on this machine, one thing I want to point out is the access to the
OPV.
OPV. You know, you can change the brew pressure on all of these machines. It's perhaps the easiest on this one because you do have to take the top off to get to it here. It's just a couple
That's right.
screws, but it's really easy to get to. And on the drive over there, you have to get to the rotary bypass, which is kind of up underneath in the back.
Still accessible from the exterior of the machine,
Yes,
right? But
yes, don't have to
obviously
take anything
not
out.
as conveniently located as on the Ride there.
So if messing with brew pressures and that kind of thing is in something you want to do, this one you can do it real easy on the Ride here.
That's right.
All right.
So just a few other things.
Yeah.
The Ride, obviously, the modular portafilter does by default come with a plastic handle. Does include a single spout silicone insert as well, so that's just
And the double,
one
right?
little difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the double, yes. I mean, because I was going to say the Move also has just the double. The Ride has the double and
gotcha.
the
Okay.
single. So
Okay.
maybe if you're not quite brave enough to try those bottomless extractions, One thing to note is that you do need to remove the spouts if you are going to use the triple basket.
That's included with these guys.
It is included, yes, but you can't use that with the spouts. There's just not enough room inside the portafilter.
And the silicone spouts, I'll be very honest with you. When I first saw it, I'm like, really? Is that?
I think we're all a little skeptical.
But then what we found out is, number one, silicone is incredibly stable. You see it used in a lot of high-end, high temperature cookware. Also, it's an incredible insulator. So if you if you want your espresso to be just a little bit hotter, I know it doesn't sound right, but actually the espresso coming out of a silicone spout is a few degrees, I think it's about 5 in my testing, hotter than coming out of a standard metal spout, because that metal can take heat away.
It's a heat sink, right? It's absorbing that heat that would otherwise not be absorbed, basically.
Let's see, anything else we wanted to... Oh, programming on this again. Look for that full video. It'll go through everything on it, but very similar functionalities over here.
Programmable on-off time, programmable backflush reminder. You've got eco mode that you can go into, the active and passive pre-infusion, which is a programmable feature here on the Ride as well, I believe, right? So, really just the same, same little screen even, and you'll notice it's basically the same here. Like Profitec ECM, they like doing that, right? On the old series of machines, they basically took the same PID screen and put it on all the grinders and all the machines. And they're kind of doing that in the new generation here too. I like that we have these all lined up because you really are kind of seeing the shared DNA between all of the Verb series, let's call it. Because these are Verb series grinders now too. Now they're twists instead of
they are twists.
C manual 54s, for example. So
let's see, let's get to just a couple more questions, then we'll move on maybe.
From Andre?
I have a Pro 600. If I were to upgrade, would it be to the Drive?
So Naomi, that's a great question. It really depends on what an upgrade means for you, right? So the 600 already has great temperature stability because you do have that E61. You have the PID controlling the boiler. You've got good thermal mass. The thing to think about too is for the Drive does have the same boiler brew-wise as the 600. So that's not really an upgrade, let's say, just in terms of anything that it's doing differently. You do have a bigger steam boiler, first of all, and we'll talk a little bit about that because we're about to move up to the Drive.
Right.
So if you really like dispensing hot water, for example, like you make a lot of Americanos, for instance, you do have good steam performance on this machine. The boiler's actively heating, but it doesn't have as much volume, right?
Right.
The other thing is that rotary pump and being able to plumb. If you're Mark,
I'm plumbing the machine.
He's plumbing it in.
I am plumbing the machine. I mean, but in my testing, as you may have derived from that graphic we put up earlier, you can bang out a milk drink every 3 minutes, absolutely no problem. Everything's going to be perfectly stable. You're probably not going to be continuously turning them out that quick
on the Move,
on a machine like the Move. You can also definitely bang them out that quick over here on the Drive. So if you're serving a crowd, and you want to get milk steamed really fast, and you don't want to have to fill a reservoir, that's the machine. We'll talk more about a couple other things this one has.
Yeah.
But this is a I really like this machine a lot. I've been working with it for weeks now, and I really, really do like it a lot. You just can't plumb it, and that's kind of a limiter for me. But
yeah, I mean, for some people, especially if it's not something that you can do, this is a terrific option. And I think it's probably a little more conventional in some ways than the 600. I mean, obviously, you prefer the kind of new look with the brushed satin steel. You've got the black on the sides. The Drive is the only shiny metal box that we have up here today.
Maybe I'm just averse because I've cleaned
so
many machines. I mean, we do a lot of videos, a lot of photography. We don't want fingerprints all over them, so I'm always cleaning them. And this one's just a little bit easier than some of the other ones. So this one question, do you want to take
from Andre? So Andre, Ranchillo Silvia, Gaja E24, or the Bizarra Hobby, you choose. I would honestly say probably the E24 would be my go-to because when I'm looking at those three, especially now with the brass boiler in the E24, and Mark, if you haven't seen his review, shows an incredibly simple process that you can use to get those consistent 200-degree extraction temps every time. Better steaming performance now that you've got that brass boiler. Still, though, you've got a commercial 58mm group. And like the classic is just, it's been around forever. So many available accessories. We've got a great suite of wood accent upgrades that you can use from Wiedemann. Size-wise, it's considerably smaller than the Sylvia. It's actually slightly bigger than the Bizarre Hobby, but when you look at the cost savings too that you'd be getting, classic
the
V
the
Hobby,
price.
yeah,
there is a price difference there. An interesting story is the Sylvia is actually kind of a consumer product, and I know there's tons of Sylvia fans out there. It's actually a consumer product kind of because of us.
You have told that story as well. That's right.
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a giveaway machine from Ranchilio to some of their vendors.
Their vendors and dealers, yeah.
And then we said, hey, you know what? We bet there's huge interest in this for home use. And boom, there it went. So, and so we say that with all love in the world for all those Sylvia lovers out there. But the price difference on the E24 little s, it's really easy to work with. Of course, when you're working with any single boiler, except for maybe some of the higher end PID ones like an ECM Classic or something, you are going to have to play with the temperatures a little bit.
No, you're right, exactly.
But if you take a look at my video on it, you'll see a great technique that works to get you 200 degrees every single time with a slight modification. You go a little higher, a little lower, super easy. And that's the nice thing about dual boilers, though, right? Is you don't have to play around like that.
No, you don't. Exactly.
They're just easier to use in a sense.
And one thing to keep in mind too with the dual boilers, with all of these machines here, and this might again be advantage move, is that if you only want to make espresso, you can choose to have the steam boiler turn off if you're in a pinch. Now, obviously, if you're buying a dual boiler, it's because you're drinking milk too. But if there's ever a day where you say, you know what, I'm just espresso only today, you can just leave that boiler off. And Mark, I mean, we're getting a couple more questions, so I think we should probably just keep hitting some of those questions. Will, I don't know if you're able to scroll back up because I see that we lost a few because they're coming in fast and furious.
We don't want to leave anybody behind. Or Profitec Go.
Or Profitec Go. Yeah, Profitec Go, obviously.
Now you're PID.
Now you're back. Yeah, you're at PID, external OPV as well. Really great. They're for people who do want that temperature, precision, and stability, available in a lot of colors. Naomi, I've never plumbed a machine. I'm not feeling I've missed anything yet. Well, it's one of those things where I think you don't know you love it until you've tried it for the first time.
Yeah. It's like one of those can't go back once you've been there.
Ted, are you still expecting the move to be available in the middle of May? I believe that's correct, but you definitely want to check in with our sales team. They'll have the most up-to-date information in terms of availability. Constitutionally conscious, I want to upgrade my eSIM Synchronica from V1 to V2. How can you guys help me out? So what I would say there, Synchronica has a lot of value. It's something where you could probably find an interested party, maybe even in your own life or in the local area, local community, and then just contact us if you're ready to maybe pull the trigger on the Synchronica 2. But great upgrade there too. The cartridge heater in the group. Incredible performance, gorgeous machine. Really, probably one of the best.
I want to take the best. I want to take Michael's question here. What is the best single-serving grinder for these units? Well, like I said, when I was doing the video here for the ride, I used this. I used the Twist SD, and I loved it. It's 54 millimeter, right?
54 millimeter, that's correct, yes.
But I do love, it's so precise in its adjustment. It really, really is. And a lot of grinders, I mean, there's some really nice Eureka grinders that do a very nice job. Nothing wrong with those, so I could recommend those. My personal preference, I really like the adjustment on this, which is just...
The worm gear,
yes.
I mean, especially compared to the previous 54 millimeter grinders from Profitec, a huge improvement overall. Especially if you're looking to keep it all in the family. If you are considering other single dose options though too, check out Mark's video, his review on the Shadow Chameleon, because at the end of that video we actually had 3 more grinders that you compared: the Chameleon, the Varia VS3, and the Eureka Oro single dose, with a taste comparison there too. So just lots of options.
There are so many options. I think it comes down to like what you like.
Yes.
There's a lot of personal things about grinders. I love the little. So he said, pronounce the grinder model louder.
Grinder model. Yeah. So this
Twist.
Profitec Twist. This is the SD, and then there's just the Twist 54. So that's the diameter of the burrs. Oh man. So bring back beamed up. All I can say on that is keep your eyes peeled. Which one has the most powerful steam? That's going to be the Drive.
Right.
biggest
Even though it
boil-
doesn't go to the temperature that this one does, again, it's a bigger boiler, so it
Bigger
has
boiler.
more steam within the
Yes.
boiler, right?
Is the Ride quieter than the Pro 600? I would say
Yes.
marginally, yes. It is
Yeah.
quieter with that mount that you were mentioning, the pump mount, and it has an
Yeah.
anti-vibration.
Check out the video when it comes out. You'll see this. There's a little
Yeah,
device that we haven't seen in a machine before, so we did a little investigation to find out what that was all about. But I did notice, I'm just going to run it. I mean,
It's incredibly
That's-
quiet.
I'm going to get. I don't know if you can hear it, but that's really quiet.
It's
for a
tough
vibration
with
pump
Zoom,
machine.
right? Because
Yeah.
it'll kick in too, and it'll
Oh,
try
yeah,
to cut
try and get the
sound
noise
if
out
they
of it.
think it's something else. Great studio, thank you. We love it as well. Michael, you're very welcome. And Andre, Classic GT versus Profitec Move.
Yeah.
That may need to be a future live stream, I would say. 'cause-
Yeah, we will have to do that. I like the GT a lot. I've, of course, done a video on that.
Yes.
Did the same sort of brew temperature analysis with the actual in-puck temperatures. And, oh my God, the results were really
Yeah.
fantastic.
And the GT2, especially with what it does with pre-infusion, really, there's no other machine out there that's really doing what that machine
Yeah.
is doing. So,
I mean, the only real difference, they have a lot of the same features, right? But
they do.
But it is more of a ring group type design.
Yeah, and so for those of you who are unfamiliar, ring group, we kind of use the term now that we borrowed from ECM Profitec. I think that's where
Yeah.
I saw it originally. It just means that the brew boiler
Is
is
right above.
directly above the
It's
brew
right here.
group, right?
Yeah. So, and if you check out our videos, you'll see them. We always go inside the machines and show you what they look like inside,
Yes.
how they're
Yes,
put
yes.
together, and that's something to keep in mind, right? I'm kind of like Todd, our buddy Todd, who was instrumental in some of that upgrading steam power. He tasks me a little bit because he'll say, I'm always talking about fasteners used in machine because I love fasteners. I used to build muscle cars way back in the 70s and stuff. And a good fastener really makes a difference. I hate it when I go in a machine and there's plastic anchors and Phillips head.
Sure, because you
cheap
just know down the
screws.
line
Yeah.
that stuff's going to disintegrate and it's just
Yeah.
not going to hold together.
So before we take up too much time, let's get over to
We're
the
going to
big
jump
boy
over the
here.
drive, so if we missed
Yeah.
you guys, we will try
Yeah.
to hit questions again at the end of the stream. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Profitec Drive.
Yeah. I'll let you give it a go.
I'll drive.
Yeah,
I'll drive.
You drive.
Okay. So yeah,
Okay.
the Profitec Drive was, it's the oldest of the machines that we have up here, but it was the, first kind of rebranding outside of the Go. This is a dual boiler rotary pump espresso machine, dual PIDs obviously. It is the only machine that we have among these three that has the ability to be plumbed. It's the only machine with a rotary pump. It's actually also the only machine that in our Profitec lineup comes default with flow control. So this actually comes to us from Profitec with the flow control pre-installed. It actually has its own signature orange flow control gauge that's on the top here, which is actually really nice, especially if you do want to invest in some other equipment, maybe like a press sensor, which is a group-mounted
Which would
pressure
replace the
and
gauge here.
flow monitor, exactly. So that
Yeah.
tethers with smart scales like the Varia AccuPro, for instance. But yeah, so the drive is
Before
really,
we go, let me just talk real quick about the flow control because it does come stock on this. You could put it on
you can
here.
optionally,
Put it
you
on
can
here.
select the flow control for the ride on the website.
But Will, if you've got that graphic, so if you don't understand what flow control does, so I put together a little graphic here. It's actually one of our other videos. So the flow control valve up top there, you can turn that. So you turn that away, Nick, and yep.
Wait.
And at different positions, valve turns open, you'll get different flow rates.
Yes.
So you can do things, like I remember seeing Slayer machines way back in the day, and they had, they have this very low flow start,
Yep.
and then
The
it was
big
kind of
paddle,
one set
yep.
pressure, and then it would go, up to the normal pressure. Here you can do constantly variable flow rates. And I've done a lot of video when this first came out about how to use that. It gets you some of those things like the slower pre-infusions, the
Yes.
very low flow pre-infusions that can really help out those very fresh coffees, or you can help out coffees that are maybe a little bit beyond their prime by kind of hitting them hard initially
Right,
and then
exactly.
reducing flow. So it just gives you a lot more control. Sorry to interject there. I just want people
No,
to
no
understand
problem,
what
no
flow
problem.
control
And
is all
yeah,
about.
so Didone, absolutely, pretty much any of our ECM Profitec machines with E61
61s.
groups have the ability to have flow control. You just select it as an option when you're, putting your order together. But yes, you can do that. Does the driver ride come in all black? Right now they do not. No. So we have the satin front on the ride, and then we have the full polished on the drive here. So yeah, going back to that, I mean, you were showing obviously the chart. That is one of the differences, though, is just in terms of the overall flow rate range that can be achieved when you're using flow control, because you have a rotary pump, meaning that the machine, and still very quiet as well, it reaches extraction and full output more quickly with that rotary pump. Now, one thing that's really important, and that's, let's say you're a purist, maybe you're bothered by flow control, you don't want to use that. Because this machine can be plumbed in, that means that you can also do the OG pre-infusion, line pressure pre-infusion, where essentially just by lifting the brew lever and opening the valve without engaging the pump, you'll have the line pressure from your house, which is usually going to be around, what, maybe 2 or a few lower.
Well, you're going to reduce it down.
It will be reduced, yes.
Usually in-house home pressure is somewhere in the 6 bar range. It varies.
But it'll be reduced for your machine, of course. And that will pre-infuse at a lower pressure than the pump would, for instance, right? But yeah, the drive here is really the machine where, again, you want to go all out in terms of capacity. So it has the best endurance when it comes to making back-to-back drinks. Plumbing it in means that, especially if you brew frequently, you are never refilling this machine. So for those of you who are looking really for kind of the added benefit of that luxury lifestyle, that's where something like the drive is really going to benefit you the most. So the espresso that it makes obviously is going to be great, but again, the key benefit to having that plumbability, having that rotary pump, means that this machine is always going to be ready for you to use whenever you need it to be. And I think that that's, you know.
And the same functionality we had here, programmable, active and passive,
that's right.
pre-infusion.
Programmable, active, passive, on-off times as well, backflush cleaning reminders. I mean, and we can pull a shot on this too, just because. And
well, let's let's fire up the.
We'll use the Twist SD here. Now, how many grams were you dosing for this?
I dialed that in for 17.
Okay.
So you're gonna use a Varia scale there. This little dose, I do like that the Twist comes. It's a magnetic.
The Twist comes with its own dosing cup, and it actually has a little surprise here. This is a little tamper. I see you put some gaff tape in there so it wouldn't move, but you can use this. This is adjustable depth. Rotary is so much quieter. It's not even just that it's quieter too, Naomi, but it's also like a different kind of sound too. It's more of just like a gentle kind of whirring. You know what I mean? So,
and it is a higher flow rate too, a higher, unencumbered flow rate. It's about 11 grams per second. I think we had that graphic up, but we don't have to show it again. But 11 grams per second out of your typical rotary pump from ECM or Profitec. And you're down, it's closer, in the 7 to 8 grams per second in a vibration pump machine.
And I think it's great that we know that now too, because I think in the past it was just sort of the mystique of espresso machines that just based on their stock flow rates, they might extract a shot a little differently, and we're sort of kind of pulling back the curtain on that a little bit so that people can see, oh yeah, like that might be a reason why a machine from one manufacturer versus another has a slightly different flow rate. And actually you have a second cup here, which is great because I can hot start. That just means I'm going to start the motor before I load the beans in.
Let's see, while you're doing that, Nick, let's see. My coffee today ordered 2 packs of Crema Wave, one of Super Crema, one of Orfeo. Had all of them before, my favorite of what I've bought so far. Hey, thanks, Constitutionally Conscious. I do love the Crema Wave and the Orfeo. The Orfeo is one of my very first favorite, more Italian blend coffees some years ago. So I know a lot of you have had that. And Super Crema, of course, from Lavazza is just a classic that a lot of people really enjoy.
Yeah, Super Crema is interesting. It's changed a little bit, you know. I remember back in the day, Super Crema was a 80-20 Arabica Robusta blend. These days, I think it's closer to 60-40.
Yeah. So if you put sugar, when I say is if you put sugar in your coffee, I don't. Then that's one of those coffees, right? Maybe
it is. Yeah,
for a lot of people.
And that's where I might even recommend, giving Crema Wave a try just to sort of see.
Yes.
It is all 100% Arabica. Roasted here in New York, which is really nice too.
And also 100% specialty grade.
Yes,
beans
I believe so.
are used in that blend, which makes a difference. Ah, you gave the barista
I
blow,
gave it the
Nick.
barista blow. That's right. That's right. But we'll try the very
So 1
low.
1/4 turn. Are you going to give it a little
I'm going to give it a little
pre-infusion?
pre-infusion. And
Okay.
yeah, you know, I'm going to froth too. I'll
Okay.
use a giant Profitec pitcher
Whoa,
this
you're
time
going
too,
big.
just to really show that up with one of the bigger Quintos here.
Let's see. Which of these 3 machines would you recommend for 3 persons and about 8 coffees per day? Well, Marcel, thanks for that question. I mean, really, I think, you know, unless you're banging those 8 coffees out, you know, as fast as you possibly can, any of these machines is going to do. I think it really comes down to what you're looking for. You know, if you want one that you can just grind, walk up to, put the portafilter in, press a button, and get the same extraction time after time, then the move. You know, my favorite probably in that category is going to be the Ride. Really, I think that's going to be the best value out of the 3 for that kind of use. Robert G, you're still rocking the Pro 700 daily. That's awesome. Curious how long you've had it. How's it looking? Oh, nice. Crema E shot. See now, you did give it a little pre, right?
Yeah.
Because
So
I did not dial in for I just dialed it in a stock flow rate. And like we said, if you're going to use a lower flow rate, typically you're going to be grinding just a little bit finer.
yes. All right, there we go. And that was much larger pitcher. Froth, vigorous roll, no problem. We're already climbing back to max steam pressure on that.
Yeah. So you could be grinding right now, and you'd be making another drink in 10 or 15 seconds on the drive over there, no problem.
So Ted, that is the Bravo Mini Tamper, and I can pull that up here for you. Keep going with that foam.
You're going to drip, no?
There we go. Yeah, so the Bravo Mini Tamper Robert G got my 700 from y'all in 2015. Robert, you're taking good care of that. It's a decade of continuous use.
Yeah, take good care of it. You should get 2, 3 decades.
Yep. So basically, Bravo coffee equipment. It's from Brazil, from a man named Gilberto dos Santos. So it was recommended to us by Danilo Lodi. We have the Bravo distributor. So one of the things that Danilo really likes about that, oh, well, there we go. I'm fighting myself here. Basically, it slowly descends onto the coffee. So there's a piston-style design. So it's really doing minimal pre-compression of the grinds, because a heavier leveler can actually compress the coffee when you first put it on, and then you spin it, and then it breaks up all the coffee that you just compressed, and then you're going in and tamping again, which is why Danilo prefers this. Yeah. Now, this is a spring-loaded palm tamper, so there is a full-sized version of this tamper as well. It has a little outer ring that basically prevents the grind or the tamper from pushing at an angle, right? And then it has an additional spring inside that's calibrated so that you're always getting the same amount of compression. This is the Bravo little stand here as well. It's a nice,
you know, as I like to say is, it's the being consistent with the pressure, not the pressure you're using.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
it used to be, if you could probably go look up some old coffee stuff, it's like, you got to do 30 pounds, you got to do 40 pounds. Well, you just got to do the same every time. A nice firm tamp.
All right,
Can you do pre-infusion?
without the flow control? Yes.
Yes.
So the answer is yes. It's not going to be a low flow pre-infusion like you might get if you had the flow control installed and you were reducing the amount. It's going to run the pump for a set amount of time, just like Mark showed us on the Profitec Move here. And then you have soak time where the water soaks in, and then the pump will start again.
Yeah, and all 3 of those machines do that exactly the same way. With programmable time.
Looks like we have a Magic the Gathering fan in here, Guitar McGoyf. I want to drive for the Rotary pump, but they keep releasing every other model in black except the Drive. When will the Drive get more color options? Guitar McGoyf, I don't know for sure, but I would check back with us because that's something we can, pass along to Profitec. Only
Robert,
one repair, main boiler heater core. Easy to fix.
And that's the beautiful thing about these true machines, right? Is if you have the skills, and even if you only are just good with tools, you can repair just about anything on these machines, and they could be going for decades. They really can. I've got the exact setup: Bravo, big tamper leveler, plus I use RDT and WDT. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, Bravo tools were used by Borum in his 2023 winning World Barista Champion routine. So, don't take our word for it, right?
Take Borum's.
Alrighty, well, we've got about 5 minutes left. I mean, Mark, maybe we just do a quick recap on kind of everything.
I mean, what I think, we start off saying like these are the next evolution of the Pro 300, Pro 600, Pro 700. The big differences here for me, and if you're not familiar with those machines, maybe that's not a big deal to you, but to me it is. I'm very familiar with them. They all have the active and passive pre-infusion.
That's right.
They all have the automatic time of day, turn on, turn off, by day of week, 2 times a day.
Yes.
Love that. On the
Eco mode, backflush
mode, there is an automatic backflush program on the Move here.
Yes.
Because it is that type of machine. You
It
can't
will
really do that
run
with
the
an
sequence,
E61.
right? And it will. You can guarantee that you've done it properly.
Of course, they all have the shot timers. They all have, I'd say, the Move here is, lower volume use, but very easy to use. And you walk up, push a button, and get the same thing every day, assuming you don't change other variables like your grind or dose, that kind of stuff.
Fastest to brew temp, too, if you're not heating for the steam with a smaller boiler.
And all my, again, I've spent weeks working with this guy over here, the Ride. I love this machine so much. It's one of my favorites, I really do like a plumbed machine, of course, because I hate filling reservoirs because I've filled so many, and I'll be doing a shot or doing a video or something, and then all of a sudden I'm out of water, and I gotta go get my pitcher and my filtered water and fill it back up. I just love a machine that's always plumbed in all the time, and the water's always taken care of. Because again, you don't want to put water into a dual boiler machine that's going to cause scale. Unless you're an espresso machine technician, then you can deal with that. But descaling these is problematic. So filter your water.
I mean, even from a water filtration standpoint, it's easier to simply replace one big cartridge once a year than having to replace your one in your pitcher or having to replace the ones in your tank. It's just easier to deal with overall.
So a lot of that same functionality, but if you like the push button, here's where you want to be. Again, active and passive pre-infusion on all of them. The temperatures are very, very stable on these things. Check out my videos. I've tested it all. Like I say, I like to do the actual real in the puck temperature testing. I don't think it gets any more real than that. And I've learned a lot doing that about these machines. Best steaming power. I thought I saw that coming by. I think we covered it a bunch of times. If you're going to steam buckets of milk,
or just a lot all
or
at
just
once.
really big.
I mean,
really big.
I had no issue frothing this milk. Vigorous roll immediately.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see. So we got 3 minutes left. Just real quick question check. When using does the pressure remain constant? Does it soak the puck and release the pressure? So it's going to run the pump. So it's going to run water onto it. It's not going to open a solenoid or anything.
No valve is opening.
So it's going to it's not going to release any pressure when you do that. A lot of people have thought, well, I've got a single boiler machine. I'm just going to hit the button.
Start it, stop it.
When you stop it, though, it opens the solenoid, and it releases the pressure on it, so that doesn't work.
Yes.
Let's see. What else? I'm a loyal fan. Thanks to thank you. It's also why I choose it. Oh, well, that's very nice. Thank you, CC.
It's our pleasure. Absolutely.
Love hearing that. Cool. What else? Probably topping. No, so not problem topping off. Hey, that works again. Like when I'm doing those tests. Like when I'm running 10 shots back to back, I got to make sure the reservoir is full.
Exactly.
And or I'm going to interrupt a test. And full of filtered water, yes.
So a little different use case for you there when you're pulling back to back to back to back.
Yes. But so Nick, let's I guess kind of wrap it up. Guys, thanks for watching.
Absolutely.
Of course, we're here every Friday at 3. We'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel. So what's the new line of so you won't miss a drop
of the good stuff
on everything coffee. Nomi's going to go with a flow control. Nice.
Definitely recommend it. Maybe check out a press sensor too if you really want to get geeky with that.
Yeah, that's going geeky where you're measuring your flow rates out, and then you can match it up to what you did with a coffee a couple months ago if you get the same coffee again, that kind of thing. That's really cool. Let me just check the notes here. Anything else we need to?
Just to tune in next week for Zach's demo on water quality and water filtration. It's a super important topic. We've talked about it a lot, and obviously we're going to keep talking about
Best
it.
way to keep your machine running perfectly and your coffee tasting great is to filter your water.
Your coffee is like 98% water.
So you gotta.
It's pretty important.
All right, guys. I guess we'll wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching. Really enjoyed having you here. Hope to see you back here soon for more of the Best on Everything Coffee. And Nick, thanks for being. It's great to be back with you.
That's right.
It's been a couple since we did one. So great to have you with me.
That's right. So
All
glad to
right.
be here, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. See you soon.